If you happen to live in the land of the free, also known as Europe, you might have started seeing funky cats recently. I'm not talking about actual cats, of course, but rather Aura Funky Cat, which is a car made by the Chinese manufacturer Great Wall Motor. This is just an example. There are more and more Chinese cars on our roads. BYD, GWM, so Great Wall Motor, whille, and others are starting to appear in traffic, and you might wonder, how did we get here? The foundation for this rise was the joint venture policy. For decades, if a foreign automotive giant wanted to manufacture and sell, this is the important part, vehicles inside the Chinese market, which was massive, they were mandated to form a 50-50 partnership with a local state-owned enterprise. The classic case study here is Volkswagen. They were one of the first by joining the market in the mid-80s, and they brought the engineering while the Chinese partners, SAIC and FAW, brought the access and, critically, the learning potential. This was the mechanism for an unprecedented transfer of industrial knowledge. Volkswagen achieved its immediate goal, market access and profit. In 2005, about 20 years after entering, the Asia-Pacific division, which was almost entirely China, accounted for approximately 20% of Volkswagen's global sales revenue. It was a massive engine for short-term profit and scale. The Chinese partners absorbed every little bit of proprietary detail. As quality improved, domestic values shifted. Whille acquired Volvo Cars, integrating premium European engineering, and brands like GWM dominated segments. The question for the domestic consumer became, why buy a foreign car when one made by your own people is cheaper and in some cases even better? The prestige gap closed and the value gap widened. It's weird how the global manufacturers didn't foresee the rise of Chinese manufacturers when they were literally sharing manufacturing, engineering, and design information with their partners for decades. They view the local companies as sort of perpetual junior partners capable of only assembly but not innovation. This proved to be a critical failure of strategic foresight. The final and most decisive factor was the global pivot to electric vehicles. This was a clean slate. Instead of competing with Mercedes, who had been making engines for 140 years, they would be competing with Mercedes, who was just starting to make electric vehicles. You know what the Aura Funky Cat and the BYD Seal have in common? Beside the obvious animal-related names, I mean. They're both electric, and this is no coincidence. In fact, all Chinese cars which you see around Europe are electric. China embraced the EV transition aggressively, moving from catching up in ICE technology to setting the pace in electrification. The Chinese advantage is rooted in vertical integration and the commitment to affordable advanced battery chemistry. Companies like BYD control the entire supply chain, allowing for unmatched cost control. For instance, the BYD Blade battery uses cheaper, safer lithium iron phosphate chemistry in a structural cell-to-pack design. This gives the Chinese EVs competitive range and safety at average prices, often half of that of their European rivals. Let's look at the ultimate payoff for that initial joint venture strategy where VW traded knowledge for access. In 2023, China still represented 30% of the entire Volkswagen Group's global sales volume. The German group delivered 3.2 million vehicles in China in 2023, and Volkswagen alone delivered 2.2 million. However, the competitive dynamic has been completely flipped. In 2023, BYD Auto registered approximately 2.4 million new domestic vehicles in China, officially surpassing the Volkswagen brand to become the top-selling single brand in the country for the first time. Most critically, the undisputed number one brand in China, which was Volkswagen for decades, was dethroned. Foreign luxury brands like Mercedes and BMW are also seeing Chinese high-end consumers switch to domestic alternatives like NIO and Li Auto. The moral of the story is simple. Volkswagen got what they wanted in the short term, so massive profit and market share for 4 decades, but they lost in the bigger strategic picture. By being forced to share their IP, they created their own demise basically. Not only are we back to square one, where foreign firms dominate nothing, we're back to square minus one. The Chinese are dominating their own market, holding over 80% of the domestic EV production. They are also starting to rise in our European market. This competitive monster is now expanding globally. The US responded with a severe 100% tariff fall, while Europe has chosen a less aggressive approach with 17% tariff on BYD and 35% on SAIC's imported vehicles. The tariff evasion strategy is clear: local manufacturing. BYD is constructing its first European EV plant in Hungary, and Chery is setting up a joint venture in Barcelona, which is in Spain. The Chinese auto industry is transforming into a global manufacturing power, avoiding tariffs and bringing the price war directly to Europe's doorstep. This was for me a very interesting topic on which I could make a video, and I hope you also learned something about the Chinese manufacturers, the joint venture strategy, and so on. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.